It's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll? Driving on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, throwing bones, getting high, getting shook. As for your folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's easy to do one night stands. Try being a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
Good evening, race fans. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome back to the 2006 season of the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. We're here from Darlington. It's race number 25 out of 36, here for the Mello Yello Southern 500, one of the most widely anticipated races of the season, and one of the final crown jewel events on this calendar as we continue to wind down this year. Take you to the racetrack for your starting lineup in tonight's race. Starting on pole, it's the 18 of Bobby Labonte, joined by Casey Kane on the front row for tonight. Looking down the rest of the grid is Tony Stewart will start in third place in the 42. Greg Biffle will be in fourth in the 16 car. Fifth, Kevin Harvick, and sixth goes to Jeff Gordon. Seventh place will be Dale Earnhardt Jr., and P8 will be Sterling Marlin, who's been on quite a bit of a roll recently. Jason Leffler starts in ninth. Kurt Busch will be in the 10th position. Matt Kenseth will be in 11th place, and Regan Smith in 12th. Ricky Hendrick will be P13 in the 5, and David Reagan making his debut this week. He's in the 48 car. He's P14. DJ Kennington will be in the 15th spot, and Kyle Busch in P16. Robbie Gordon 17th spot, and Carl Edwards in 18th. 19th goes to Scott Wimmer, and Terry Labonte will be P20. 21st goes to Jack Sprague, and Morgan Shepherd in 22nd. 23rd will be Jason Keller, and Christian Elder in the 24th position. 25th, Elliott Sadler, and 26th will be Martin Truex Jr. Brian Vickers will be in the 27th spot, and Jeff Green in 28th. 29th, Casey Atwood in the 30. John Andretti will be 30th place in the 21. 31st goes to Jamie McMurray, and Scott Riggs in P32. 33rd goes to Eric Norris. 34th will be Ryan Newman. 35th place, Jeremy Mayfield. And 36th, Mark Martin in the 28th. Clint Boyer will be 37th. Johnny Sauter in the 38th position. 39th will go to Ron Hornaday Jr. And 40th, Todd Bodine. Rounding out the field at the back of the field here tonight, it'll be Ricky Rudd in 41st and Stanton and Barrett in 42nd. 42 stock cars, as always, here from Darlington as we take you to the racetrack for the Command, most famous words in motorsports, here from the Carolinas.
Drivers, start your engines!
Field of stock cars roar to life as we roll off for the opening parade lap here. 111 laps is your race length tonight for the Southern 500. Couple of things to note as we get into the race as always. The most important part of this aspect of the race is going to be tires, tires, tires. The rubber is so important at this racetrack. There is so much tire fall off at this place, and more notably, in the whole garage situation going into today's race, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car, he's suspended this week. So Johnson may have had his championship hopes dashed after being suspended for the incident with TJ Bell last week at Bristol.
Well, might have, and if there's anybody who you want to talk about to be able to close this gap, it's that 01 of Kurt Busch sitting there in the 5th row. He has been on an absolute tear for the past 5 to 10 races. He has been absolutely unbelievable, the best driver in the field for a while, at least in terms of winning speed. So if there's anybody that can close this gap to the championship and steal it away, it would be him. He was over 400 points back just 6 races ago, and now has climbed all the way to about 130.
Absolutely. It's a 133-point margin from Kurt Busch to current points leader Robbie Gordon in the 31. He's had an average finish south of 7 in the middle third of this season, and now with 1/3 of the year left, looking to capitalize on a wide-open championship. Pace car peels off on the left, 111 laps from Darlington. Bobby Labonte to lead the field to the green, and we are underway here from Darlington. Everybody trying to get sorted out. It's always so difficult on the initial start of this racetrack with it being double file. It's so tight. Everybody managing to find enough room to work it for the while as we get situated into this race. Taking the lead right away, Tony Stewart just got past Bobby Labonte for the lead as the 18 went in the fence there in turn 2. Sorted it out, and he's dropping a long way back from the pole position.
Bonnie has been very, very confident recently. He's had a lot of good runs.
Caution's out.
And was able to put it on pole today. Caution comes out.
Believe it is the 23 Wimmer backwards, and everybody else trying to get off of turn 4 and does. Not a whole lot of carnage, but the yellow flag comes out early. Sorry to cut you off with your story there, as Wimmer went around off of turn 2 on just the second lap. We always see these early incidents at this racetrack. There's so little room to work with, and Wimmer goes for a harmless spin. In fact, he was 3 wide with his teammate. It was Jeff Gordon in the wall, and 22 of Marlin couldn't quite give him enough room, and it resulted in Wimmer going for a bit of a slide down the backstretch.
And that would look like it was just a product of Darlington being the narrowest track on the schedule. Just not a whole lot of room to work around him.
And what a job by Wimmer there to keep it off of the inside wall, too. He missed it by about 5 feet, maybe less.
Yeah, very nearly noses into it right here, but he's able to keep it off, keep it straight, and that car really doesn't suffer too much damage. He should be all right.
Everybody going to come in early. We always see quick pit stops in the quick cautions at this racetrack, so the whole field down to top off on fuel. Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, the top 2, lead the field in for their first pit stops, expecting mostly 2 tires and fuel only here.
And as we had mentioned in the Busch race, you know, the tire fall off in the Busch race was about 3/10 a lap. And so if you pit 1 lap earlier than somebody, you can drop off 3/10 a lap. And it only exasperates as long as you get through the run. So I expect tires to be taken on every pit stop today. You do not want to risk falling behind on your strategy, because as enticing as it is to get that track position, you can lose it just as fast as you gain it.
Absolutely. Off the race, off the pit road there, we saw Kevin Harvick steal the lead away from the 42 of Tony Stewart, so a couple of very quick lead changes in this race, but the 20 will be your leader. Take an intermission here from Darlington, a quick caution, 23 around on the backstretch, no damage to him. We'll be right back here from the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. Back from intermission here at Darlington as we get set to get back underway after that quick first caution. Kevin Harvick, your winner off the pit road, fuel only for pretty much everybody, and he will take the lead from Tony Stewart. Matt Kenseth will be restarting in the 3rd position. 4th belongs to Ricky Hendrick, and Casey Kane will be in the 5th spot. And it goes Kennington, Kurt Busch, Bobby Labonte, Terry Labonte, and Jack Sprague to round out your top 10. Lap number 7 on the start for the leader Harvick here.
And as we said, I think for every stop in this race, we will see tires, no matter how long or short the run. And we're going to see it here with only like 2 laps on the tires. These guys already came in for 2. So we'll see how the strategy differentiate through the race. Who takes 2, who takes 4, who wants the track position, who doesn't. Should be interesting as these cars have raced fairly well for the little bit that we've seen. They're a lot more passing than what we saw earlier.
Absolutely, and also worth noting, we saw some drivers take 4 on that stop. It was mostly fuel only, but Robbie Gordon was one of the drivers who was on 4 tires. Worth noting that a lot of the guys in the back are on 4. Pace car in. Lap number 7 on the start for Harvick, the leader, and we are green. Top 3 with a great jump on Ricky Hendrick in 4th place as we race towards turn 1 for the first time on this run.
Pretty much staying single file here. They're behaving for now. Kennington took a look under Kane there. Didn't quite make the move. As the train follows suit. Choo-choo around the bottom. As Kevin Harvick starts to try to open a gap here. But Tony Stewart definitely not going to let him get away.
It's that usual suspect at Darlington where you try to see these guys just kind of pick and choose your battles. It's so difficult to be side by side here, and we see it early. Keller just about kept it out of the wall there. It's so hard to be side by side at this track. See a lot of guys picking up spots very quickly on the tires. Robbie Gordon and Dale Jr. moving up quickly. They're already within the top 20. So it's
Eric Norris as well. I believe he was one on tires as well. That's another good run for him. That competitive edge team has had a lot of confidence recently. They have ran better than they ever have, and they said it has shown in the shop. Everybody is super, super high. Very good morale boost up there. And Eric Norris, a guy who's very liked by everybody in the garage, has gained more confidence this season than in the rest of his career, he has said. So very, very exciting stuff out of that garage. I hope to see it continue because it's a very, very good story.
Absolutely, seeing these guys trying to fend each other off. Robbie Gordon is on a flyer right now since that restart. Moved up to 16th. He's ahead of his teammate Truex Jr. for that position right now. Got some side-by-side in front of him as they're trying to sort it out. McMurray moves past Terry Labonte there on the bottom. For the race lead, still Kevin Harvick comfortably in front of Stewart. Kenseth, Kane, and Kennington all have held steadfast. No position changes between these guys, although Ricky Hendrick has dropped out of the top 5. Obviously restarted in the 4th position. But this top 3 has remained unchanged. Casey Kane still right with them. Kenseth trying to find a way around that 42, and we've talked so much about Roush up and down throughout the entire season. They closed the 6 car going into this week. John Wood was one of the 2 drivers that was suspended after Bristol, as we see Jason Keller pitting in for repairs after getting the wall a couple times, I believe. But back on target is Roush has downsized their garage a little bit. That iconic 6 car got closed this very week. John Wood was suspended after Bristol for incidents involving him and Kane. He was 5 laps down and got into the 38. Kane made some pretty nasty comments about Roush as a whole after that race, and to no surprise, it's more than one time that he's gotten into it with that garage and seemingly not really had a whole lot of a reason for it. But Roush is really trying to focus on the future. They closed the 6 car. That car didn't have any sponsor contracts yet announced for next season. They closed it up. It's now a 4-car operation. Will be a 3-car operation, I believe, next year with the 99 going over to PPC. They made a deal with that team that has been mentioned over the course of this season that they're going to be sending equipment over to PPC so they can run a second full-time operation. Obviously, they've had PPC's Jason Keller in the 99 to replace the departed Jeff Burton. So a lot of changes over there at Roush, trying to right the ship, and so far it's going well. They ran a lot better recently than they have before, and Kenseth and Biffle, especially the 2 frontrunners of that team, have had a lot of confidence lately, have ran some great races, but it's just been the win that they've been looking for. Matt Kenseth has been so close. He's been winless for such a long time lately, and just trying to find that first win, but he's been closer than ever before lately. And it's been a good run lately for that 17, and currently P3, good start to the day for them.
And if you just watch Matt Kenseth race, you would be able to tell just by the eye test he has some of the best racecraft in the entire series. He doesn't always qualify up front, but you always seem to mention him. You always seem to see him up at the front of these races by the end. And that's a very, very good quality that a lot of drivers have, a lot of champions have. Matt Kenseth is a very, very great driver, somebody who any team would be very lucky to have. And Roush, struggling right now, but they have full faith in Matt Kenseth, and it's hard not to see why.
Absolutely. Battle for the lead brewing now as Tony Stewart will move past the 20 into first. Casey Kane had a chance there on the bottom end to get out of the throttle, so side by side with Harvick off of turn 2. But he moves into the second position. DJ Kennington, runner-up in the Busch race on Friday night. Not quite able to get around his teammate for the third position, lurking there in fourth as Kenseth sits in the fifth spot. Looking further back down the order, Robbie Gordon still picking up positions. He's moved into 13th now in the 31 machine.
Yeah, and this is where you see the tire advantage really start to come into play, as the guys who took fuel only aren't going to be running lap times nearly as fast as Robbie Gordon. He's got to make sure not to overdrive his stuff and negate that, but if he can just keep the heat in the tires and keep the pressure on, you're going to see him absolutely fly through the field at the end of this run.
Absolutely, and not only that, we see Robbie Gordon, who is one of the drivers who took tires. It was only 4 tires just 2 laps into the race, but it's been 10 laps since we restarted. Robbie Gordon's already about 6-7 tenths off of his best times of the race, so it's such a fall off. You see the tires matter so much. This race surface just eats up rubber, and it's so hard to run on the old tires at this racetrack. We see the lap times plummet as far as 3 to 4 seconds off when they're at their worst, and no change here today. It's a 1.5 seconds off that last time for pretty much all of the guys that are in the top 5. Harvick just retook the lead a lap or 2 ago, as him and the 42 of Stewart have continued to dogfight for this first position. Kane dropped a couple of spots down to 5th. These guys on old tires are already seeing it struggle, and it's been 10 laps, if that, and a couple drivers have pit early. We see Eric Norris, who has a bit of damage himself on the back of his race car. He did at the start of this run. He's going to be another one to make an early pit stop, a little unscheduled, but this run continues to wind away. And Harvick holding steadfast over the 42 as Stewart chases his ex-ride.
To Robbie Gordon, it is interesting to note that we had talked to Richard Childress before this race, because this is a very, very big opportunity for that team to open up this gap and to really start to put some pressure on winning this championship. It would be RCR's first championship outside of Dale Earnhardt, and there were some interesting comments from Richard. He said, Robbie is the most Dale Earnhardt driver that we have had since Dale Earnhardt. He drives like no other. He drives like one who is just hungry every single lap. He doesn't want to settle. He just wants to run up front, lead laps, and win races, and he will settle for nothing less. So Robbie Gordon, absolutely very high praise. He should be very, very thankful.
Absolutely, and talk about shifting focus. Childress really wanted to put emphasis on trying to win this Cup championship. Robbie Gordon's one of the best drivers we've seen in NASCAR in quite a long time, and we talk about it so much with this 31 team. Every single race over the last maybe 10, 15 weeks, doing something different. That's all they've done this year, is approach it differently. And once again this week, taking 4 tires all the way at the back of the field on the restart, moved all the way up to 10th. It's such a different approach than everybody else in this garage, and you see they've made it work better than everybody. That 31 car is further up the field than anybody else who took 4 tires on that start, and it's any wonder. Robbie Gordon is such a quick driver, such a talented driver, and you see him performing better than he has all season long, continuing to just put emphasis on running up front. You mention it, trying to win races, and just one-upping himself every single week with these differing strategies, and it's any wonder that he's leading this championship, because he has done it so perfect. This team has had such perfect execution, and it never, ever seems to falter, despite how odd some of their moves might seem to be. That 31 car just perfect throughout the course of this year. They've got a formidable opponent in the form of Kurt Busch, who has also just been absolutely stellar this year. We've seen the best drivers in this series bring the best game they can to the championship table this season.
I would argue that this is some of the most competitive racing we've seen in the Cup Series ever. I mean, it is so competitive at the front of the field. There are so many good drivers in the sport right now. It seems like everywhere you look, there's someone who is capable of winning races. And it's such a competitive field. It's so hard to differentiate yourselves because everybody's just so similar. Everybody's just so good. But the guys who can do it really are just some of the top talent, not only in this series, but I would argue in the entire world. It's absolutely top tier stuff.
Absolutely. We've seen talent influx over the last 4 to 5 years that was unprecedented 10 to 15 years ago. Some of these drivers who have made their way up to the top of the table, and some drivers that still make their way to the top of the table. We've seen a better rookie class lately than we ever have in the NASCAR Cup Series. We've seen Clint Boyer, DJ Kennington, drivers like that make their appearance known. We've seen DJ Kennington beat some of the best drivers in the Cup Series for his first career win. That was at Kansas just a handful of weeks ago. Obviously, we've talked about him so much. We talk about Clint Boyer as well. That 4 car has made such an upturn over the course of this season. Boyer made his appearance for the first time in the Cup Series and has never looked down, as meanwhile on the racetrack, bit of problems as we tell stories. Stanton Barrett has a tire go down, and I believe he's not going to make it back to the pits here. So this is going to result in another yellow flag. Tough break for some of these drivers who are really undercutting. And caution comes out. And back to the stripe, Kevin Harvick will have the lead, and we are under yellow for the second time here tonight.
We'll see here on the strategy if the 31 team does something different again. And it's interesting to note that, as differently as the 31 has approached the season, there are other teams that have tried it, just nobody else has been able to work it as good as the 31. So it's not a matter of just nobody being able to figure out what they're doing. They're just doing it better than everyone else. And it's so impressive.
Without a question, we talk about execution. That 31 car has done it perfectly. Pit stops here on lap number 28 as Kevin Harvick will lead the field down pit road here. Expecting 4 tires and fuel for pretty much everybody here, and see what adjustments everyone can make to try and dial their race cars in as we get our first big green run under the belt. Harvick will lead the field in. Lucky Dog goes to the 57 of Scott Riggs as he will get back on the lead lap. Just had come down pit road when that yellow flag came out, but Harvick and Stewart to lead the field down pit road here. Get rubber and fuel on their race cars. Lap number 29 as they cross the line there.
And what is going to be really beneficial to these teams is we got a long enough run there for them to make some adjustments to their cars. You start to see ill-handling race cars at this racetrack. It's so hard. It's a driver's track, and the handling starts to go away at the end of runs. But our first run was not long enough for them to really get a gauge on it. Now they do have a sample size. They can make changes, and because of that, I think you're going to see a little bit of field shuffling.
Without a question. Harvick wins the race off of pit road from first place. It's a Gibbs 1-2 as his teammate Kennington leaves the pits in P number 2. Take an intermission here from Darlington with the 20 in first, 81 in second. We'll be right back here from the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. Back from intermission here at Darlington as we get set to roll once again. Kevin Harvick and DJ Kennington first and second off of pit road. Kurt Busch and his teammate Tony Stewart third and fourth. Brian Vickers will be starting in the fifth position. Got ran into by Matt Kenseth under pacing, so he's got a bit of damage on the back of his race car. Also saw Jamie Murray got spun in the pits under that yellow flag. He managed to get it facing back in the right direction. No major damage to him, but he will restart in the 20th position. Scott Riggs in the 57 was the driver who was the lucky dog that last time, so he's back on the lead lap. Have a couple of cars a lap down or two, thanks to the pit cycles under green. A couple of drivers that had pitted early on that run. But Kevin Harvick and DJ Kennington set to lead the field to the green here. Lap number 32 at the line. 80 long laps still left in this one.
And we'll see what kind of run Kennington can get here on the start. We've seen the leaders start to get away at the start, but everybody starts to reel them back in because draft is an underrated quality of this track. The straightaways are longer than you might think. The corners are not very sweeping. They're generally pretty tight, especially 3 and 4. So draft can play a big factor. Did not get a good start. Kevin Harvick absolutely blitzes out of the gate.
Gone on his teammate as Kennington holds everybody up behind. Back underway as we race through turns 1 and 2. Everybody getting their tires back warm as we get set on a second run. See who's got the good stuff this time. And Kurt Busch is quickly going to jump underneath the 81 looking for the second spot. Stewart trying to block Vickers. That's for fourth. Robbie Gordon would love to get after that 01.
And Kurt has been so close on so many occasions to getting a championship in this. And because of that, he is more driven than ever. We talked to him in the press conference because it's just such a big opportunity for him to close in, although he is going to get passed by his teammate Tony Stewart here. It's such a big opportunity for Kurt Busch to close in. And we talked to him asking what he would do to win a championship. He said, I would wreck anybody in this field to get one. So we might see an aggressive Kurt Busch, but we're going to see the speed out of the 01 as he just absolutely flies once again. He is soaring through this field.
Stayed clear of the 42, his teammate Stewart there to hold on to his position. Jamie McMurray just went down pit road. So another pit stop. We've seen quite a few of them here today where guys have been getting damage on the racetrack or been off cycle coming in very strange spots. So McMurray, a tough break for him when his two teammates are running in the top 5. Seemed like he had a pretty quick car. So he will drop a lap down with that pit stop. Harvick a long way in front in first. Busch and Stewart back there. Brian Vickers a nice run here today, running in the 4th position, but he's got Robbie Gordon, the points leader, right behind him.
How about Jason Leffler up here? Very good run for him once again. We have talked about him off and on throughout the season, but has had a very good season nonetheless. Has done a lot more than expected in that 00. A very good showing again for Jason Leffler.
Moves into the top 5, passing Vickers there. Saw the 4 car of Clint Boyer also move into the top 10, I believe, as Vickers goes straight into the wall. Think he might have got hit by Kennington there. Run a replay back on this. No, just overdrove the corner entry, and into the wall is Vickers, so that 44 is falling like a rock now. 55, 88, 48 all slipping by as he is tumbling down the order at the moment.
He had already had damage from a previous incident, and it looked like he drove high into the corner expecting the concrete wall to be there, but that was where the safer barrier jetted out, and he clipped the wall and just went right up against it. So not exactly ideal for the 44, who has, to be honest, kind of struggled to finish out races this season. You see him at the start, running up in the top 5, having a good race car, but just struggles to get the finishes. He's still a very raw talent. Hendrick believes in him. Still a very raw talent, someone who has all the potential in the world to be a very good driver, just needs to put it together.
Falling into the clutches of the Penske duo of Smith and Newman as they enter turn number 3. Meanwhile, up front, Robbie Gordon trying to move past Jason Leffler and stay in front of that 00 for position. Kurt Busch seeing the 31 in his mirror, quickly getting back past his teammate Tony Stewart for the 2nd spot. But Robbie Gordon is right on the back bumper of Kurt Busch, his championship rival, as they head down the backstretch.
And Robbie Gordon and Kurt Busch, these are the two that really can separate themselves today if they have good showings, and they're having great showings right now. Not what Jimmy Johnson wants to see on the couch, but these two know that this is their opportunity to make it between themselves, and are doing a fantastic job today so far of making that a reality.
Without a question, and another driver trying to capitalize on Johnson's absence is Kevin Harvick, who has led the majority of this race, was also fourth in points, not quite out of the championship yet. He's well over 300 points out of it, but has a chance. That's all it really matters to a NASCAR driver in any sort of situation for a championship, is you have a shot at it. And he's another driver who's been really hot recently. He's won a couple times this season, fairly recently a winner, trying to capitalize, but he's got the two best drivers in the Cup Series this season on his tail, and here comes Kurt Busch for the race lead.
Busch gonna make quick work of him. Robbie Gordon gonna get underneath him as well. These two look like they're gonna get right on by. That Kevin Harvick fights back on the top lane. We'll see how long that lasts, down into one, unable to hold it, and is going to slip back into the clutches of Martin Truex Jr.
8-car having himself a nice run today, has been part of the top 5 for a better portion of this race. Sits in 5th, couldn't quite get underneath Harvick for the 4th spot. He's got Kennington and Leffler right behind him. Biffle's also climbed up the order. He's in 8th. 9th belongs to Kyle Busch, another driver who's found some spots later in this race.
I would argue Martin Truex Jr. has been one of, if not the most underrated driver in the garage area in the latter portion of this season so far. I mean, at Pocono, very nearly won the race, about got turned with 2 to go, made a fantastic save, but was in contention to win that race. Very, very well could have done it. And he's had a couple of those this season. Was fast at Las Vegas, thought he maybe could have won that race. The rookie stripes on the car, those are just for show. He's driving like a veteran, and although he struggles with consistency sometimes, the speed is there. That is a driver to look out for in the future.
Without a question, although got stuck on the outside there, which is a disaster for anyone, no matter how talented you are at this track. He drops a long way back. Robbie Gordon, meanwhile, the 31 car, has moved into the lead in front of his championship rival. Kurt Busch a bit of a ways back, trying to regain himself. He's got his teammate on the back bumper. And Stewart isn't going to waste any time with the 0-1. Ducks underneath towards turn 1. Him and Harvick will move by on the bottom. Seen a lot of passes made up front in the top 5 this race. It's been so racy here. Harvick now ducking underneath to try to take second away from the 42.
Kevin Harvick in the 20, racing the driver of the 20 last season, who ended up winning the championship. Both of these drivers are very excited about their future. Tony struggled a little bit out of the gate, but the 42 team, brand new team entering this season, a team that did not exist. And of course, whenever you have to spread out your resources throughout your team, it's a little bit of a struggle, at least out of the gate, because you know all your good people are spread out between more teams and more cars. But throughout the season, you've seen that 42 start to get stronger and stronger every week. You see him in the top 5 more and more. And, of course, Tony Stewart, no stranger to being one of the best in this series. And nobody ever doubted that. But Ganassi, just as a whole, has been extremely strong. Maybe the best team in the garage area for the past 10 weeks or so.
Absolutely. They've put it all together lately, and just trying to make that championship push late. Couple of Chevrolets way out in front of them, though, as Harvick left those 2 Dodges in the dust. They continue to fight for third, as Stewart once again moves past his teammate Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch stuck on the top here. We'll see if he can get down in front of Kennington. Not going to be a problem. Gets down right in front of him, and I'm going to have to chase his teammate back down. And maybe not what he wants to see, Robbie Gordon out there well in front.
Absolutely. Harvick in the 20 trying to reel him back in. That 20's been the dominant car of the day. Robbie Gordon has really cut his way through this field, and now on the same tires as everybody else, still has that speed. But that 20's been so quick, it's just going to be a matter of if Harvick can get back to him and make another overtake for first. These two long in front of third place Stewart, who isn't too terribly far behind, but just that little tiny bit of a gap is what makes the difference right now. And just trying to reel that 31 back in. Robbie Gordon comfortably in the lead for the moment. Stewart and Bush pulling back up into the mix for the top couple spots here. Slowly approaching halfway in this race. It'll be lap number 56 that we hit it. And a long green run has settled in. The field's spread out now. It's really opened up the opportunity for these guys.
I'll tell you what, Tony Stewart has absolutely blitzed through these guys. He is all the way up to Harvick, and he was well behind him just a couple laps ago. That 42 has found some pace.
Seeming like he's got the long run on lock, but these two Chevrolets looking like they might be about to fight for first. Gordon with a tiny bit of a better exit off of turn 2. Harvick still right in the tire tracks of his ex-teammate as they head down the backstretch. Top 3 evenly separated that time through 3 and 4. First battle on the racetrack is between Leffler and Hendrick. This is for P7. Still single file between those guys.
And Clint Boyer now has entered the top 10. So you see 3 rookies up here right together. So this rookie class is absolutely stellar, as we said at the top of the show. I'm not sure we've seen anything like it.
Absolutely, and Clint Boyer doing such a good job in that 4 car lately, and it's amazing to see so many rookies run so well at this track. This is not a rookie-friendly racing facility at all. Darlington is such a skill-based racetrack. That's why you see guys like Stewart, Harvick, Bush, and others all up front racing for the lead, because it's so hard and so difficult to run, not only run this track in general, but to run fast at this racetrack. To see so many rookies perform so well is just a statement of talent by these guys with so much speed. We've seen Kennington run top 5 all night long. He finished second in the race on Friday, as we mentioned earlier. He's got the speed to do it, and he's been contending with some of the best in this garage. Kurt Busch, Stewart, Gordon, Harvick. I'd argue all 4 best drivers in the field this season. Sans only Jimmy Johnson, of course, who is watching this race from the pit box. But it's just amazing to see some of these young guns perform so well at a racetrack so difficult.
For DJ Kennington, he did finish second in this Busch race, and what a story it was. It was a race that, frankly, to TV watchers was not very exciting, but it had the drivers on the tips of their toes. They were very on edge. A lot of wrecks, but as the strategy winded down, he started to close in. Wasn't quite able to get there. It was a maiden win for Ashton Lewis Jr. It was a very good story. Fans were absolutely thrilled, but DJ Kennington gave him a hug and said, "You got me." And for a driver so young, for a driver so young in his NASCAR career, just what a classy guy. Everybody loves him and has a lot of talent to boot.
Absolutely. We've seen so much and talked so much about this man in this 81 car. Has just got past Tony Stewart, who drops a couple positions back. Harvick had taken the lead a couple of laps ago. Hadn't had the chance to mention it yet. Halfway here from Darlington as this race continues to while away. Got a lot of it left, and it is so many talented names up front in contention for the win. We've seen another driver worth mentioning. Greg Biffle has absolutely sliced his way up to the front of the field here. Sits in the 6th position right now and has joined this group of top 5. We've seen these guys separate themselves so much from everybody else over the course of this race, but Biffle, yet another driver. We talk about him and Kenseth, who have just been needing these good runs, and they've had a lot of them lately. And that 16 car is looking strong here tonight. Has some good long run pace. Might be within a shot of winning his first race of this season. Biffle, already a winner a couple times in the Busch Series this year, has been running in the 60 car for owner Jack Roush this year, but would just love to get a cup win. It's the series he prioritizes, and Roush has just been looking for it all year long. They would love to get a checkered flag. But pit stops here as everybody's getting set to come in. Kurt Busch and Robbie Gordon will lead the first group of pitters in lap number 58.
Oh, in the Busch race, the undercut was very powerful at the start of the run, but as the run continues, Tires are so important that the gap kind of negates towards the end of the run. Robbie Gordon, Kurt Busch doing something a little different from the rest of the field, but still kind of mimicking each other. They want to make sure that if they're going to make a gap, they're going to do it together. Neither of those two want to get too far behind the other. So they want to make sure to try to get past each other on the track.
Absolutely. Race leader Harvick is in with the second group, takes his teammate Kennington right behind him. Busy pit road here, just past the halfway mark in this race. And Harvick into his pit box in just a moment here for his pit stop. Got a little bit of traffic to contend with. That's Gordon in the 24, just getting right out of his pit box there. But Harvick in for his pit stop here. Major turning point in this race as we see green flag pit stops take place. Great stop for Kurt Busch. See McMurray, who is well off cycle with him, and Robbie Gordon might give him a chance to fend off the 31 for a moment here, try to give his teammate an advantage, and did get in front of Robbie Gordon there. 31 will finally get his nose underneath halfway through the corner and slips right on past.
For how it could have been for Robbie, he did a really good job, because we saw it in the Busch race, for example. You could not pass lap cars. They would get behind him, but nothing would happen of it. They would sit behind because everybody was too afraid to make a move since the track is so narrow. So really, that could have been a lot worse for Robbie Gordon.
Made it work and got past that lap car who's trying to help out his teammate. We see these guys get mixed up now as the field shifts just a little bit. Kurt Busch is a long way in front in first place right now. This time by for him, 50 laps to go here from Darlington. Kurt Busch trying to add yet another crown jewel to his repertoire this season. He's been better in these most important races than anybody else in the entire field this year. And he's showed up on the biggest stage, of course. But Robbie Gordon not too far behind in second place. Third now belongs to Greg Biffle. Harvick dropped to fourth. It's Leffler fifth, Boyer sixth, and seventh, DJ Kennington. McMurray got a big gaggle of cars right behind him. And so rough on the tires. He's been on those for quite a long time. Probably going to pit in a couple laps here. So he's got a ton of traffic right behind him.
Cannot say enough about Clint Boyer, who has worked all the way up to the 6th position. It has been such a night and day difference when he got in this car. It's just such a glimmer of hope for that McClure Racing team. He has absolutely blown the expectations out of the water. We saw him lead laps at Bristol. Unfortunately, really struggled towards the end. He had a couple pit road penalties, had to come back in for a restart violation. But you saw the speed up there. He was able to hold his own in a car that some would say maybe isn't one of those race win contending race cars, but they believe that Clint Boyer can be the person to bring them back to glory. You know, this is a team that has won multiple Daytona 500s. They are no stranger to finding victory lane, but it's been a struggle for a while, and they believe Clint Boyer could be the guy to turn it around.
And it's just another case at this racetrack where you talk about skill being the most important factor when Boyer, one of these drivers who's made so much of a difference for his team, performs at a racetrack like this. It's a statement to how talented that young man is. And it's any wonder that Morgan McClure has absolutely just adored having him a part of their organization and the runs that he's brought since he joined that team. Kurt Busch, race leader right now, 1.8 second between him and championship rival Robbie Gordon in second place. A lot of race left, a lot of chance for that 31 to reel him back in. We're getting close to crunch time in this one as we continue to wind these laps away. Less than 50 laps to go. A lot of drivers hungry for wins up at the front of this field, and a lot of surprises up at the front of this field as well. Jason Leffler and Clint Boyer, outstanding runs. DJ Kennington also making yet another statement appearance at the front of the field. So many storylines in so little time.
I'll tell you what, Kurt Busch and Robbie Gordon sitting in first and second. This is an absolute nightmare scenario for Jimmy Johnson and Hendrick Motorsports. This is not at all what they wanted to see.
Without a question. We've seen Kurt Busch and Robbie Gordon just dominate this race. They've been so quick. They'd been second to Harvick for quite a while there, but that 20 car falling backwards just a little bit later in the race might have to make some adjustments to keep up with that 31 and 01, who just kind of ran away with it at the end. And of course, Jimmy Johnson out of this race was hoping that these guys would have struggle fights, that they might DNF from this one. Darlington isn't the cleanest track, so he was hoping that that had been the case and maybe kept him within championship contention, but this is disaster scenario for that 48 car.
And for a team that really has felt like they've had the luck on their side this season, this is really some of the first adversity that they've had to face all season. If they want to climb back, they're going to have to fight through maybe the two best drivers in the garage area. It has been an absolute dogfight today, and I don't expect any different for the rest of the season. But as you mentioned, Kevin Harvick sitting in fourth place now. He was the fastest car in the field for the start of this race, but just kind of behind on their adjustments, they said on the radio. And it's very important at this racetrack. The age surface, one that's very narrow, you can only run so many places. The rubber gets in every nook and cranny of this racetrack, and as the race goes on, as the temperatures start to dip, as the humidity goes down, everything starts to change, and on every single lap. So you have to stay up to date on your adjustments and make sure that you don't just get complacent because you're running up front. Think of how you can manage your race car better and how you can make it turn better, how your crew chief can help you. And the 01 and 31 have done a better job of that.
Absolutely, though Harvick definitely isn't out of it yet. He's only a pair of seconds behind that 31 car who sits in second and the leader of Kurt Busch, as Robbie Gordon continues to try and chase away. Top 5 currently belongs to Biffle and Boyer, as well as that 16 car has remained present at the front of this field. Boyer about to get passed by McMurray, who's on fresher tires right now after making his pit stop just a handful of laps ago. Casey Atwood, another driver who's cut through the field and made an appearance late. Once again, showing his face at the top 10, has just had such a consistent season, such a good season for that 30 car. The chances for a win are continuing to disappear for him, but even despite that, you can't look back on this season and say it was a bad one. And once again, had a bit of a rough qualifying, has made his face shown once again late, and racecraft is so important at this place, and you can see it showing for that 30 team here tonight. Atwood
has came so close to winning on so many different occasions, notably Pocono. When he was leading going into the final corner, Kevin Harvick, with a bonsai move up the inside, was able to take the lead and the win. But that was the race where Casey Atwood showed that he was here to stay and he was here to win races. He hasn't quite found victory lane yet, but I have no doubt that eventually it will happen if he keeps getting and putting himself in position. Today, maybe not quite winning speed, but definitely another good, consistent run today, one that builds some momentum to have those kinds of days in the future.
Without a question, and yet another solid day for him. Gordon's still trying to cut into Kurt Busch's lead, but that 01 has pulled again on that 31. 1.3 is your gap from the 01 to the 31 car, which is a couple tenths larger than it was a handful of laps ago. So Kurt Busch running some perfect lines at the moment and just trying to waltz away with this thing at the moment.
And as you said earlier, there's been nobody as good in the important races as Kurt Busch. He was able to win the Brickyard 400, a race that Chip Ganassi thinks so much about with his history in IndyCar. Now looking to try to win this race, the Southern 500, which is one very, very important to NASCAR, one that is so important to the history of this sport, one that every driver wants to win because it really shows who the best of the best drivers are. The drivers love this racetrack, and most of the time, almost always, you see the best drivers rise to the front. That's been no different today. The top 2 drivers of this season, sans Jimmy Johnson, running 1-2.
Absolutely, and for Busch trying to win back-to-back races, which is something you don't see very often, and it only really ever comes from championship winners. And Busch has come close so many times to that big trophy, both with Roush and with Ganassi, and he would love to put a cap on it, and he's definitely wishing that 31 car would be running a couple positions lower in the order right now, but you're doing the best you can and dominating the later portions of this race. Looking good for that 01 as he continues to lead and pull away from Robbie Gordon in second place. Battling for position back here. This is for 4th between Biffle and Kennington right now. Seeing so many positions shift. Clint Boyer drop backwards just a little bit. He's just outside the top 5 in 7th. 3-car race for this 4th spot right now.
Leffler showed his nose a little bit. Kennington was not able to get underneath him, but Jason Leffler, as we said a time before, just a very, very good run for him today. That Haas CNC team has had glimmers of really, really good speed this season. It isn't always there, but when it is, it's really there.
Absolutely, and for Leffler gearing up for a full-time Cup season next year, he got as close as he can this year, was running as many races as possible, but still running the full Busch season, so had to prioritize that. But next year, it's full-time Cup for him. So trying to gear up, maybe get some good runs in late, and really focus on building what you can and building your knowledge for the Cup Series. He's ran quite a few Cup races for Haas, and this year, running the most he can, and without it being truly full-time. And next year, that's the plan for him. And a good run here today, proving why he's getting that role in that 00 car as soon as next season. Harvick in the 20 car is chasing after Robbie Gordon for 2nd here. Has been closing that gap quite significantly. The 31 hasn't had a lot of long-run pace in this middle portion run. So we might be seeing a battle for 2nd here soon between these two Chevrolets. All the while, Kurt Busch still running away with the lead.
And we will see one more green flag pit stop here if it does go green. So this is the opportunity for the 31 team that we've talked about him doing so much this season to do something different than your title rivals. And right now, sitting in 2nd place, as we know, Robbie Gordon doesn't settle for less than the win. If he's going to do something different, he needs to do it soon, because as soon as they start pitting and that track position goes away, you have to do what you can to win the race. You can't finish behind Kurt Busch right now. That 01 team is too hot. You have to get ahead of him.
Without a question, and that has definitely got to be the priority on the mind of Gordon right now. 30 laps to go, coming to 29 for Kurt Busch, who is still, like we keep saying, pulling away. That gap now 1.8 seconds almost between him and 2nd place Robbie Gordon as he continues to slice through all this lap traffic. Gordon getting around the 96. Harvick dropped off the 31 a lap or two there, trying to close the gap and get back up to Robbie Gordon and fight for this 2nd position. Harvick is another driver who's been real hot recently, and the top 3 in the points who are actually in this race, of course, you mentioned Jimmy Johnson 2nd in the standings, not here. Top 3 are in the top 3 of this race by running position. They have been the dominant cars of the day. Robbie Gordon, Kurt Busch, and Kevin Harvick have simply left the rest of the field behind, and it's just between them for the win pretty much at this point.
And for these 3, they're thinking, this could not have gone any better. For the 48 team, they're thinking this could not have gone any worse. It's a tale of 2 seasons, and it's a tale of just trying to do something different, which is the motto of this season pretty much. Jimmy Johnson having to sit on the pit box and watch David Reagan drive his car as the title rivals of his sit 1, 2, 3. Not an easy sight for Jimmy Johnson. He's got to be sick to his stomach.
Absolutely, and Robbie Gordon gained a ton of time on the 01 of Kurt Busch over the last couple laps. Bit of a struggle for traffic that time for Busch, as Robbie Gordon has cut that gap down to just half a second, working on the 44 of Vickers to try and find a way around him. 3rd place, obviously, Harvick not too far behind. 4th, Biffle. 5th, Kennington. These 2 guys are a long way back. It's 4 and some change in the 2nd category for them, behind 3rd place Harvick, and over 5 seconds to the leader Kurt Busch. So these guys are hoping for a yellow flag, which isn't something that you can take out of the equation at this racetrack. Darlington, of course, as we keep mentioning, it's so hard to get around here, so hard to race side by side, so you can potentially expect it. It's definitely not over, but these top 3 have just ran away for the moment, and Robbie Gordon is rifling towards the back bumper of that 01 of Kurt Busch for this race lead.
Robbie Gordon must have been saving his stuff because he dropped almost 2 seconds back, but has absolutely reeled him back in. He's found another gear right now. Kurt Busch not really able to keep up with him. He's able to keep the lead for the moment.
Problems for
As
Mayfield.
Jimmy
26 has a tire down. He will not make it back to the pits. Caution flag comes out, and that changes everything.
There it is. You were saying you definitely can't rule it out, and almost as soon as you said it, there it is.
Also saw some tire marks on the wall there. Looking like some contact going into turn 1, and that was between Kane and Jeff Gordon. I believe they might have both just overdrove it themselves. No, little bit of contact from Gordon. So another tough break for Kane, who again has some contact. Different team this time, as Jeff Gordon was the one who got into him. Both of these guys frustrated with where they're running. They were outside the top 20. So guessing tempers boiled over between those guys, and now a chance for some of these drivers to really change things. Lucky Dog will go to the 0 of Christian Elder. Jimmy Murray's got to be gritting his teeth over that, as Elder just dropped a lap down. But for the two leaders, Robbie Gordon and Kurt Busch, you have got to nail this stop.
This has a very good chance of being the money stop, and with this little to go in the race, this will be kind of a middle portion run. And you saw Robbie start to reel him back in at the end of that long run, but Kurt Busch in the middle of the run was absolutely flying. Of course, it could be different when you adjust the cars, but they're going to get out side by side here. Kurt Busch just going to have the nose.
Just about the 01 wins the race off of pit road. That was so close. Kevin Harvick gets off of pit road still in 3rd. 4th place belonging to Biffle still. Believe Boyer got Kennington for 5th. So money stop goes the way of the 01 of Kurt Busch. Take you to intermission here from Darlington, approaching the final 20 laps of this race. It's going to be a mad dash to the finish here tonight. Back from intermission here at Darlington as we get set to get underway once again with 20 laps to go. The top 3 dominant cars all bunched up here. Kurt Busch will be starting from first, Robbie Gordon second, third belongs to Harvick, couple of lap cars, and then you go back to Greg Biffle in fourth, and Clint Bowyer, who has had a career day tonight in the 5th position, all set to roll here with 20 laps remaining in one of the biggest races of the season.
It'll be so interesting to see how these 3 are able to negotiate, who's able to get the nose out front, who's able to win this race, because it'll be so important down the stretch with these 3 running together. Whoever gets more points here, it could be the difference in the championship. You don't want to risk it. You want to go for the win here.
Pace car in on the left. It's going to be a mad dash to the finish. Green and green here as we get set to roll. Top 3 lined up. Pace car off. Green flag back in the air. Kurt Busch with a great start. Robbie Gordon a better start than Harvick as well as the top 3 enter turn 1 separated as we get back underway. See Greg Biffle in the back of your shot trying to make quick work of the lap car Green, who gets up into the wall. Manages to stay out of harm's way. Bowyer with Biffle, as is Kennington and Atwood. So these guys all trying to get quick dibs to try and catch up to the top 3 who are separated by all these lap cars.
To get out of the gas a little bit, he's gonna get right to the bumper of Bowyer. Bowyer had a chance there, didn't quite take it, but Bowyer now having to look back in the mirror, had to check up. Almost got ran into by DJ Kennington.
Got a little sideways there in 1 and 2, trying to hold on to it while mirror driving that 81 car. This group of 4 all together for position here. Top 3 so close. Kevin Harvick putting pressure on the back of Robbie Gordon. That 31 had a better long run car. Think the 20 and 01 might be better on the short run. Harvick quickly into second place, now chasing the 01 for the lead.
It's going to get passed by Jamie McMurray here, so nope, he did stay ahead. McMurray had the nose underneath him. He did push. He did push underneath him, but big run on the top for Robbie Gordon keeps him ahead, but still now a ways back.
Biffle still trying to make headway on the lap traffic. He's got the 57 of Scott Riggs up the road. Bowyer still in front of the 81. 99 has a tire down. Jason Keller with some issues. Got out of harm's way. Didn't hold anybody up. We'll see if he makes it back to the pits. I believe he will. That tire is still intact, but down. And don't believe the leaders will get to him before he makes it to the pits. So Keller will make it back to the pits. Track stays green. Meanwhile, for the lead, Kevin Harvick back into first place.
The car, the early portion of this race, is taking the lead right when it counts. But don't think that's it, because there's a lot of racing to go. These 3 are as hungry as ever. This is the hungriest that they've been all season. They need to try to separate themselves from one another. So hard to do when you're running 1, 2, 3, but somebody has to get this checker flag, and all 3 of them want it bad.
Biffle got past the 57 lap car of Riggs and moves into position to where he can really try and hunt down these leaders. Robbie Gordon looking for the race lead towards turn 3. He's gonna get underneath. Side by side for first.
What Jamie McMurray does up here as a lapped car, we'll see if he helps his teammate Kurt Busch. He's got to get around Kurt Busch first, but if he can get past him, he could be a valuable asset to Kurt. He could try to use him as a pick to get past his title rivals.
Bowyer slipping backwards in the 4, rough for him as he was close to a top 5 there, drops all the way outside the top 10. Ricky Rudd has come alive late and joined this front group. He's 7th. Kennington and Atwood behind the lap car Riggs. Biffle closing up on McMurray. That's 16. Coming alive late. Might have a final say in this thing. But still just the top 3 who are separated by practically nothing.
But if he wants a final say, he's got to get past McMurray here and start closing the gap now. You don't want to wait, because if you don't push somebody up to the high lane, those gaps close, but not very quickly. So you got to get that move done now, and you got to start driving the wheels off of it. You might burn it up, but that's the only choice he's got.
Big run by Harvick off of turn 4 that time, and the 20's got the lead back. Busch follows him in a second.
Robbie Gordon gets back down to the bottom here. He's going to try to regroup. There's so much race left. Well, not a whole lot of race left, but feels like forever for these drivers. Every lap feels like it goes slower and slower as you plan out your moves. You don't want to get stuck behind here. As these guys, it's an absolute dogfight. What a fight to the finish here.
Busch now for the lead in turn 1. Gordon to second this time. Harvick drops to third. This all pulling Greg Biffle and Kennington into the mix. They might have a shot at the win late. Coming towards 10 to go in just a couple laps.
Three are so focused on fighting each other, they didn't even think about the opportunity of these cars behind them to close in and steal it from all of them. So as much as you want to separate yourselves from one another, you have to make sure that you're smart enough to fight little enough to make sure you don't fall out of it.
Harvick passed Gordon for second. The 31 now falls behind the 40 into the clutches of Biffle for third place.
And Biffle absolutely going to have a shot at this thing. Greg Biffle might be faster than all three of these guys right now. It might be because they're battling, but the 16 has been really, really quick, trying to have something of note for Roush this season. A Southern 500 trophy certainly would not be a bad consolation prize.
Underneath is Gordon for the second spot. Here comes Biffle for P3 off of turn 2. 16 to third place. All the while, 81 moves past the lap car of Riggs, has a shot at it. Kurt Busch is running away with the race lead with 9 coming to 8 laps to go.
This was the point of the run last time where we saw Kurt Busch be so strong. Robbie Gordon stuck behind McMurray, the teammate of Kurt Busch, doing everything he can to help Kurt try to cut into this gap just a little bit. This is going to bring Greg Biffle into it. DJ Kennington might have a say in this if he starts to get past Kevin Harvick. But all the while, these guys need to get past McMurray, and they need to get past him now.
Down the front stretch they go as Kurt Busch is continuing to run absolutely perfect laps. Here comes the 16 of Biffle for second place into turn 1, and he has got it.
Robbie Gordon going to try to get down in front of Kennington. Can't quite do it. They're going to be side by side as Kennington not quite able to get the run. Really good job by Robbie Gordon. He very well could have got the freight train much further. It gets down in front of Kennington, which could end Kennington's chances of winning this race, as Kurt Busch is absolutely gone at this point.
6 laps to go in this race. Greg Biffle, the fastest car of the top 5, has moved up into second and has a shot at it. He's got to get around McMurray first. Has a big run coming out of 2. He might do it here. Gonna look. Couldn't get there.
He can't wait. He has to do it now. If he can get a run, he has to do it as soon as possible, or else I don't think he's got enough time.
McMurray being an MVP teammate for Kurt Busch right now, and going around the outside is Biffle. McMurray blocking the bottom. Here comes Harvick trying to take second. He will. 5 to go in this race. McMurray throwing some crazy blocks to help out his teammate for this win.
That positively takes Greg Biffle out of this race, as he has fallen all the way into the clutches of the lap car Scott Riggs. So certainly can't be very happy with the way that ended for him. But Jamie McMurray doing his job, and Chip Ganassi has to be smiling a little bit on the pit box.
4 to go that time. Here comes Robbie Gordon to try to retake second. He will. Kennington looking for third on his teammate. Will have that move made.
Casey Atwood makes a move underneath. I haven't talked about him much. He's entered the top 5 now, up into 4th place. A little too far back for the win. But another great showing from him as Kurt Busch starts to wind down and put a cap on this race.
Robbie Gordon finally trying to get around McMurray and Will, but it's looking like it's going to be too little too late. Kennington past the 40 as well. Kurt Busch a lead of a 1.5 seconds coming to just 2 laps to go. It looks like it is all but over.
Unless Robbie Gordon has something in the tank that we don't know about, this one likely wraps.
2 laps to go for the 01 of Kurt Busch. He's probably going to be giving the biggest of hugs to Jamie McMurray at the end of this race. But right now, he's got just 2 laps left to conclude it.
Kennington had a run on Robbie Gordon there. couldn't quite get underneath him, but DJ Kennington not satisfied with third. He wants more.
Coming around to take the white flag this time, Kurt Busch so far out in front, and one more time here at Darlington.
Now, and Kurt Busch, mission accomplished for him. He saw this, and this was the biggest opportunity that he has had to put his foot in the door of this championship. He absolutely does that today with another commanding victory. What a story, what a race, and what a victory for Kurt Busch.
Coming off a turn 4 for the final time, he's got it made. The Battle of the Titans goes to Busch. The 01 wins his 5th of 2006 here tonight. What a victory for him today. Robbie Gordon mitigates the damage. He finishes in 2nd. A fantastic run for Kennington. Concludes in 3rd. 4th goes to Casey Atwood. Another top 5 for that 30 car who's just been so stellar this season. Kevin Harvick comes home in 5th. A good finish for him as well. Biffle 6th. Stewart recovers towards the end of it. He finishes in 7th. 8th goes to Rudd. 9th, Elliott Sadler. And Ryan Newman rounds out the top 10. And a shout out to Jason Leffler and Clip Moyer, who finished just outside of the top 10. Great runs by them today. And what a race it was tonight. But Kurt Busch is the one who comes out on top of a thriller of a battle for a win.
And as I said, on the last lap, mission accomplished for that 01 team. They knew what they had to do. And they executed perfectly. This is not a race that's easy to execute, and that's why you see some of the best drivers in this series rise to the top. And maybe the best driver in the series right now rises to the occasion. Kurt Busch entering victory lane once again.
What a win it is for him tonight. His 5th of this season and his first back-to-back wins of the year by any driver, as a matter of fact. Actually, no, excuse me, that has happened a couple times before, but Kurt Busch is the 3rd different driver to win back-to-back races this year, 2nd to Jimmy Johnson and Robbie Gordon earlier in the year, so these 3 have just been dominating the showing in this season, and Kurt Busch, his 5th win of the year, is the most tied for the most by anybody this season, and that 01 continues his unstoppable stretch.
Really, one of the best stretches we've seen in this series in a very, very long time. You don't really see it anymore with how competitive the field is, but that 01 has just had absolutely monumental pace over the past 10 weeks or so, something that he started the season a little slower, as Ganassi did as a whole, but as they picked up, Kurt Busch, absolutely stellar showing this season. He's showing that if there's any season that he's finally going to break through and get his championship, it's this season.
Absolutely. Kurt Busch, your winner here tonight of the Mello Yello Southern 500. Next week, it'll be race 26 at Nashville before we get set for the final chase of this championship. 10 races after next week. It's the 11th of the remaining races to go at Nashville for the MBNA All-American Heroes 400. On behalf of Nate in the booth with me tonight, we'll catch you then. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and as always, have yourself a good one.